Now, sticking with matters at the Uganda Law Society, we are joined by the Deputy President, Anthony Asiimwe, to talk about today's ruling. Good evening to you, Council, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here.
Now, first things first, is the Uganda Law Society going to hand over the President to jail?
One thing I can assure the viewers is that the President of Uganda Law Society will not be detained at any cost. We shall not allow that to happen. And it is not going to happen because in any case, we look at this ruling as unfortunate. It's really unprecedented, and we don't believe it will actually be implemented.
Okay, and so looking at, what the judge based on to pass on the ruling, would you agree that these are some of the events that led up until this feud that is happening between the judge and the Uganda Law Society president?
First of all, if you look at the events as they've been unfolding, I think even a P1 or a year one student would know that a person cannot act as a judge in their own case. So if the accusations against the president that he's said wrong things about Sekana, why would Sekana be the one to hear that matter in any case? But again, that notwithstanding, when you follow the events, look at what happened on the 7th. During the opening of the new law year, there was a warning issued. We saw the Chief Justice, weaponizing the judiciary in a bid to silence the radical new bar. Of course, it is a ploy to silence the radical new bar in our demand for accountability, our demand for justice, and beginning, of course, with the most outspoken, the President, Ssemakade. That's what we believe is happening, and we shall not, stop at that. We shall continue as the Radical New Bars Uganda Society, fighting for justice and for the rule of law and accountability from these judicial officers.
And so before we move on to what your action will be in regards to this ruling, the criticism of the judiciary is a necessary part of the accountability. But then where do we draw the line between legitimate criticism and, the concept of the contempt of court? Because it appears that the judiciary is not in agreement with how the Uganda Law Society president is handling his expressions.
First of all, criticism is criticism, and if a judicial officer or any person in that position cannot take criticism as it is and chooses to fight back using such measures, it is something very unfortunate and very wrong. They should be able to accept criticism as a way of, if someone demands for accountability, they should just look back instead of fighting back using such measures like, like what we've seen in the ruling. And again, you also need to know that this was a one-sided ruling where Ssemakade was not heard. He was not given a chance to be heard. It's just a one-sided ruling where someone comes up with allegations and a judicial officer chooses to use that as take advantage of the situation and uses that to punish or to show their dissatisfaction in that manner. So you asked about drawing a line. Really, like I said, criticism is criticism regardless of what form someone uses to communicate that criticism. It should be looked at as criticism. It is allowed and it should be acceptable and tolerated. Okay,
and so what is your action as the Uganda Law? What action will you take following today's High Court ruling?
Like I said, we know we're not surprised by this. We saw it coming because it was clearly communicated. We're not caught off guard, so we're aware of what the judiciary or what the institution is trying to do in a bid to silence the radical new bar from demanding for accountability and justice since the time of Executive Order number 2, where we declared that we intend to radically fight for independence of the judiciary and also at the same time work towards weeding out the corrupt and incompetent judicial officers. It's been, a back and forth. It's been an attack on trying to silence us. Now, as the Radical New Bar, we shall not stop at that. Our focus is still proceeding with fighting for accountability and weeding out such judicial officers who are incompetent and corrupt from the judiciary for the sake of the rule of law. And again, our legal team is working back and forth. We have a whole membership behind us on the legal steps to be taken to fight this kind of ruling.
Okay. Yeah. As we wrap up this conversation, do you think this will mark the end of the tenure of the president of the Uganda Law Society, Isaac Ssemakade?
Definitely not. This will not mark the tenure of the end of the president, Uganda Law Society.
Okay.
The radical new bar is here to stay.
Okay.
And we shall continue. It's not just Ssemakade, by the way. The public needs to know that this is not just about an individual as Ssemakade. Just because Ssemakade is outspoken and he will come out openly, the weaponizing these members of the judiciary and thinking that Ssemakade will be held and we all go quiet, it will not happen. We shall continue fighting. But the president is here. He's still here to serve his term.
Okay.
And as the radical new band, the council, we are working together, the president, together the membership of the Uganda Law Society.
Okay. Thank you so much, Council.